This is absolutely explosive. In a development that has sent shock waves crashing through the very heart of Westminster and Buckingham Palace, Prince William's strategic counteroffensive has officially begun. I repeat, the wall of silence that Number 10 desperately tried to maintain has completely collapsed. What we are witnessing right now is a bold, unprecedented maneuver. Sources inside Downing Street describe the current atmosphere with 2 words: absolute pandemonium. Keir Starmer hasn't just been outmaneuvered. He has been backed into a corner by a strategic shift that his entire inner circle failed to predict. Let me be crystal clear about the gravity of this situation. According to 3 separate sources, 1 inside the Palace of Westminster and 2 with close ties to Kensington Palace, the release of Prince William's 12-page constitutional memorandum was not an accident. It was a precision strike. This is the very document that government lawyers desperately tried to suppress, even exploring options to gag the media under the guise of national security. But those efforts have failed. The document is out and the fallout is immediate. An eyewitness inside the Prime Minister's office described the scene as the news broke. Aides running between offices, crisis meetings being called at the highest level, and a palpable sense of dread. They thought they could bully the monarchy. They assumed William would remain silent to preserve protocol. They were catastrophically wrong. And here is why this is lethal for the government. This isn't a standard royal letter. This is a meticulously crafted, legally devastating indictment designed to dismantle the legitimacy of the Prime Minister's agenda. William isn't playing politics. He is playing constitutional chess. And he has just delivered a move that looks remarkably like checkmate. Why is the government so terrified of this document? Why was their first instinct to attempt censorship? It is because of what is written on page 3. The government thought they were dealing with a ceremonial figurehead. They underestimated him. They are now realizing they are facing a constitutional heavyweight. The panic inside Number 10 is real, and frankly it is entirely justified. Because this is only the beginning, we can now reveal exactly what sparked that panic. We have obtained details regarding the first constitutional bombshell contained within this explosive memorandum. And quite frankly, it calls into question the very legality of the entire legislative agenda. Sources who have analyzed the document confirm that on pandemonium in Number 10, we misread the Prince, page 3. Prince William lays out a charge so serious it is being described as a constitutional atom bomb. He calls it the unlawful usurpation of royal prerogative. I'm not exaggerating when I say this changes everything. William, supported by what insiders describe as volumes of legal precedent, directly accuses the government of attempting to use simple legislation to bypass and effectively erase centuries of established royal prerogative powers that belong to the crown, not to politicians. Here is the key point that the government hoped you would never hear. The proposed legislation, which aims to strip the monarchy of key powers, is being rammed through Parliament. But William's memo argues that these powers, such as the formal assent to laws and the appointment of ministers, are not merely ceremonial. They are the fundamental bedrock of the British Constitution's checks and balances. By attempting to alter them without cross-party consensus and crucially without the proper engagement of the Crown, William accuses the Prime Minister of acting ultra vires completely beyond his legal authority. A source close to the palace legal team revealed the core of William's argument, and it is devastating. The memo reportedly states, "The government cannot simply vote to give itself powers that have belonged to the Crown for 600 years. That is not democracy. That is tyranny." Think about the weight of those words. The future king has in a formal legal document accused the Prime Minister of acting like a tyrant and attempting a constitutional coup. The memo reportedly cites ancient legal principles, including the case of proclamations of 1611, principles that the government's team either ignored or more terrifyingly never even knew existed. Top constitutional lawyers are now seeing the sheer depth of this argument. Professor Alistair Finch of Oxford University, a man who has advised prime ministers, described the memo as constitutional dynamite. He notes that William has brilliantly moved this from a political debate to a legal one. He is essentially arguing that the government is trying to build a house with no foundations. This isn't just a difference of opinion. It is an accusation of illegality at the highest level, and the government's lawyers have been left completely stunned. Here is the second constitutional bombshell from Prince William's leaked memo. And this is where the situation becomes truly global, threatening to shatter Britain's standing on the world stage. On page 5 of the document, William reportedly charges the government with a reckless disregard for the Commonwealth. This is absolutely stunning. According to bombshell number 1, unlawful usurpation of royal prerogative. Sources who have seen the memo, William argues that the government in its ideological rush to diminish the monarchy has completely forgotten or worse ignored the fact that King Charles is not just the King of the United Kingdom. He is the head of state for 14 other sovereign nations, including Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. The fallout from this oversight is causing absolute panic in the Foreign Office right now. The proposed legislation would inevitably bleed into the King's role as head of the Commonwealth. Yet, William's memo reportedly asks a devastating question. Did the Prime Minister consult with the Prime Ministers of His Majesty's other realms before proposing legislation that fundamentally alters the nature of the crown they all share? The answer, according to senior Whitehall sources, is a resounding no. The government was so focused on its domestic agenda that it treated 14 independent nations as irrelevant. William's memo argues that this legislation treats the Commonwealth realms as colonial afterthoughts, a charge that is already causing deep offense. We have learned from trusted sources in Canberra and Ottawa that the Prime Ministers of both Australia and Canada are deeply concerned and were completely blindsided by this news. A leaked diplomatic cable describes the British government's move as constitutionally reckless and deeply disrespectful. Let that sink in. 1 of